Well done.
Mr. Speaker.
I call the Honourable Member Stephen Browning. Tinakwe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pleased to be able to stand to speak to the Auditor General's report into the primary industry's ability to deal with biosecurity incursions. That was a very, very damning report on biosecurity agencies over this last while. However, I would say that, and I'd like to tell the Minister and those associated in the National Party, that we look forward to working on biosecurity with them, because there needs to be significant improvement and very, very fast at that. The government needs to front up and needs to show where it's going to actually do some new spending on biosecurity, and very quick about that too. We've got a budget coming, but we need some very strong signals, not just working within the current budget framework. We completely agree with the Auditor General's assertion that our country is more dependent on biosecurity than any other developed country, and biosecurity is fundamental to New Zealand's economic health and its natural heritage. And I've got a few examples to speak of in a moment or two. However, the problem with it is the national government's continuing to put international trade ahead of biosecurity time and time and time again. And we've seen that over the issue with the porcine disease, the pork AIDS, you might call it, that they're wanting to bring in raw meat that will risk our New Zealand industry. Why? Just to protect major trade agreements. We know that with honey, that they want to bring in honey from Australia where there is disease that we don't have here. Why? Just for some trade agreements. They seem to think it's worth the risk to sell off our biosecurity, our children's futures, our farming families' futures for some short-term trade of unsustainable products that you seem to be totally focused on, Mr. Smith. And we'll just carry on with what this Auditor General's report comes up with. She focused primarily on foot and mouth disease. What did it show? That we are totally unprepared. And what did she add in there? Well, what do we know about this? That New Zealand, the cost to New Zealand in 2 years, if that went ahead, would be $10 billion, 20,000 jobs. This is a government that reckons it's creating jobs. This is a government, through biosecurity alone, is costing jobs. And we can go into some more, such as PSA and PSILID. We've got a number of them there to consider. The Auditor General said that there was a risk that the inadequately resourced surveillance strategy has damaged the Ministry's reputation among stakeholders such as local government, and I would include the public, importers and producers. Within New Zealand, we have issues of biosecurity about what's happening. It's not even just the incursions. We've got Chilean needlegrass that the government looked the other way at as it spreads further into Canterbury. We've also got Kauri dieback up north, where this government has decided it's not going to do any budget funding. It's not going to go for any new funding on Kauri dieback, another of New Zealand's part of natural heritage. Is this going to be the next Maui dolphin? It's not. There's no new budget money. They've said it. MPI have said it to the people up north, the people that are having real concern on that. It is, well, it's really good, Dr. Smith, and I'm really looking forward to seeing new budget money on Kauri dieback. It will be fantastic because the research isn't happening there. It's a Phytophthora disease that's really, really difficult to sort out, and what they seem to be looking the other way, no money for operations, just PR stuff. We need better from this government around biosecurity. Getting back into what's happening at the border, of course, we know that there are very, very lax import standards or management around containers. We know that successive governments have been part of that, but this particular government is allowing ongoing for lay people to effectively be biosecurity inspectors in warehouses from imported goods. So goods come in as a business, a wholesaler, whatever, has imported a container, and who inspects it? Somebody that's done something. They can pretty well do it online to get the tick for being an inspector. That very same wholesaler's got a bundle of customers waiting for that in their shops or their businesses around the country for the products out of that container. And that lay person, that business person opens up, there's a moth, there's something crawls out of it. What happens? What they're meant to do is get hold of Biosecurity New Zealand, who may, if they feel it's important enough, come out there and fumigate it or do something. They may. But that person that's opened up that container, that's seen that insect or spider or whatever come out of there, they've got a conflict of interest. They've got customers waiting for product, and yet they are the ones that are meant to do something about it. That's a hell of a lot of good faith in somebody that's got a very, very big vested interest. We need to change our systems. We need to be doing far, far more inspection at the ports, and you cannot do it on current budgets. You've got to lift the game for that. I want to ask the Minister, how much new spending are they going to do on biosecurity this year? New spending, very clear spending, not robbing Peter to pay Paul, new spending. And the other one is, can the Minister, or any of the ministers, including the one barking from over there, have confidence in the New Zealand biosecurity system after this? Can they have confidence after this report, Auditor General's report? Can they have confidence considering the psyllid is costing huge money, the PSA outbreak that's potentially costing the country $800 million over 15 years, add that with the psyllid, we're talking over $1 billion there, less than foot and mouth, but is that the trade-off to flog off a bit of unsustainably produced milk powder and logs through our wharf? Non-value added, fouling up our reputation, fouling up our waterways, and we sell off future generations' incomes through poor biosecurity. There is significant cost, and it's not just the dollar value of that, it is what that does to communities. We've seen what it's done in the kiwi fruit industry, and we see what happens in the primary production world every time. We also have to think about what this flow-on is to the New Zealand community. Psyllid comes in, we had fantastic control in our glasshouses using non-toxic methods of control for even conventional growers. Biocontrols in there. What do now? They pour on the chemical to kill psyllid in those hothouses. Thankfully, we're looking at new biocontrols, but there's a big cost to the community when you get more and more chemicals, more and more of a chemical cocktail being poured into the community's stomachs. Mr. Speaker, there's another issue. The Minister's just had a briefing for incoming ministers, and in there's something that I'd like to see the Minister sort of work out. The Auditor General says that preparing for and responding to biosecurity incursions is basically, through the report, is really flawed, and yet in the briefing paper by MPI to him, it says New Zealand has a biosecurity system that retains a sufficient level of protection while encouraging economic growth. This is the same ministry, MPI, and I'm not saying that the people in biosecurity MPI can't do a good job as individuals. I think they're probably striving very hard. I'd say their morale is way, way down because of the lack of support by central government into them. So, Mr. Speaker, we very much support the report from the Auditor General, but we will do our best to help the government do something about this. Thank you.
I call the honourable member Shane Ardern.
Mr. Speaker, I totally agree with the previous speaker's